not focus so much on what we have to say to God and focus more on what God has to say to us. After all, the book of Revelations did not say, he that hath a mouth, let him talk. It said, he that hath an ear, let him hear. We're listening for something and we don't exactly know what it is. It is what Elijah called the still small voice. God has said, if you cut all that stuff off for a minute, I want to talk to you.
Silence. Why is it so hard to deal with? What is it about silence that makes us feel like something is wrong? Why do we cringe over the quiet? How much silence do you have in your life? I mean, can you remember the last time it was quiet? Do you ever wish God's voice would be louder in your life? On an FM radio like this one, you can adjust the dial until you find or tune in to a station that is broadcasting what you want to hear. FM stands for frequency modulation. But most of this is just white noise. White noise is very simply random frequencies or signals all coming through at the same time. In fact, the sound of white noise is the sound of all of the frequencies between 20 and 20,000 hertz. So we're literally hearing around 20,000 different tones of sound. That's why it sounds messy, because it's so much noise all at the same time. But is there a way that we can tune out all the random noises? Is there a way we can tune in to the one voice that matters most? Is there a way to find the frequency that God is using to communicate to us? It reminds me of a story in 1 Kings chapter 19, where the prophet Elijah is at a place in his life where he desperately needs something from God. He's dealing with all this noise, the noise of his own failures and fears, and he doesn't even know if he can go on anymore. And so God tells him to go stand on this mountain. And while he's on this mountain, a strong wind comes, but God isn't in the wind. Then an earthquake comes, but God isn't in the earthquake. And then a fire erupts, but God wasn't in the fire. And then comes the still small voice of God. There's been a lot of discussion amongst biblical scholars on what this still small voice actually was. Some people think that this actual Hebrew word doesn't even refer to an actual small audible sound, the kind of sound you can hear with your ears. Some translators say this Hebrew word actually refers to absolute sheer silence. God wasn't in the wind. God wasn't in the earthquake. God wasn't in the fire. God was in the silence. Studies have shown that 183 million people are regularly exposed to noise levels labeled as excessive by the Environmental Protection Agency. I think many of us are dealing with excess when it comes to sound, not necessarily the volume of the noise, but the amount of the noise. Our phones, our social media, our Netflix binges, the music that automatically connects via Bluetooth when we get in our cars. I mean, some of us think we can't study without music. We think we need more noise so we can focus. The SUVs we buy come fully equipped with TVs in the back so our family, our kids can stay entertained when we're on trips. And we're making clothing now pre-wired to support our needs for noise, and we call it wearable technology. I wonder if there is a connection between the amount of noise in our lives and our inability to hear God's voice. Maybe we have been asking the wrong question. Maybe it's not so much about is God speaking, as much as it is about, are we listening?